John Krakauer has written his fair share of books. Having read a couple, I've got to say that he is quite a prolific writer. His book Into Thin Air inspired me to get into climbing mountains. It was that good of a book. One of his later offerings was a true crime piece looking back at some gruesome murders called Under the Banner of Heaven. Filming rights laid untouched for years until Hulu picked it up for a miniseries starring Andrew Garfield, and I'm sure glad it did, because it made for damn good watching. The miniseries begins in 1980s Utah with detectives Jeb Pyrie and Bill Taba, played by Andrew Garfield and Gil Cunningham, investigating the brutal murder of Brenda Lafferty, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, a Mormon woman and her baby daughter, Erica. Brenda's husband, Alan, is immediately detained and questioned as the primary suspect. Through his retelling of his life and marriage to Brenda, we get the history of the Lafferty family, a very powerful and influential local family. We also get the history of the Mormon religion, but this retelling isn't as comical as the classic South Park episode all about the Mormons. Oh no, this miniseries tells the brutal history in very raw form. How much of it is true I really don't know, but it's definitely gotten Mormons' titties up in a twist, so there may be something up to it. Through flashbacks, we learn that when the Lafferty patriarch and his wife go off on a 2-year mission, they leave middle sons Dan and Robin to oversee the family and run the father's chiropractic business, purposely snubbing his eldest son Ron. This lack of supervision leads the brothers down a dark path when they run their father's business into the ground. And when the IRS comes calling for back taxes, they refuse, citing far-right anti-government extremist ideology. I guess they never learned from Al Capone. You can do whatever you want, but you better pay your taxes or you'll get crucified. The story evolves from there, and I want to keep the review spoiler-free since this is a murder mystery after all. Needless to say, though, that this story had many twists and turns. Unless you looked up the original story on Wikipedia, you didn't really know who murdered Brenda Lafferty until later in the series. I don't think that's how the investigation turned out, but I don't fault the director for wanting to keep a little mystery in the narrative. And speaking of the narrative, it slowly unfolded over the course of the first half of the series. By episode 5, you had a pretty good idea of what each character was about, what their motivations were, and how they evolved as a person in a perfect setup for the resolution. For example, because of the nature of this murder, the character Jeb Pyrie questioned his beliefs. The more he analyzed the murder, the more he found out about the dark history of his own religion. Through each episode, we see his struggle with his own identity and his relationship with not only his religion, but also his family, friends, and colleagues. Garfield did an excellent job in portraying this struggle. All the meanwhile, his partner, Bill Taba, was there as a sort of check on Pyrie. Detective Taba was a Paiute Indian who had his own history with the Mormon people. However, unlike Pyrie, Taba kept a clear head by keeping the past in the past and focusing on the task at hand in a logical and directed manner. Taba was much more grounded, and so he provided Pyrie with much needed balance. As you've probably gathered from some of my other reviews, I'm a huge fan of Andrew Garfield. Ever since seeing him live on stage opposite the late Philip Seymour Hoffman in the 2012 adaptation of Death of a Salesman, I've seen this kid evolve into quite a capable actor. He really takes his craft seriously, and in each performance it truly shows. His interactions with Gil Birmingham, who played Bill Taba, were fantastic. The pair played very well off of each other and truly showed the balance that's needed in everyday life, especially in a tough job like police work investigating gruesome murders. Over the course of the series, Pyrie learned to keep his emotions in check and evolved as a character by overcoming his emotional struggles. You don't get much in terms of screen time from Daisy Edgar Jones, as she plays the murder victim, but in the few flashback scenes we do get, we see that she portrays a bright, idealized young woman with aspirations that are cut short. Jones does a great job of portraying that de-evolution into despair. Sam Worthington also lends his acting chops as a capable supporting character. His relationship with his brother, played by Wyatt Russell, is very well captured when the pair argue over their parents' business in several scenes. Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, has been quietly rising up, playing very complex and distraught characters. He'll be one to watch as he has shown great skill at unraveling these multi-layered characters. Overall, this short miniseries was a great watch if you're a fan of true crime. The production was higher than what you would typically get from the likes of Netflix or even Dateline on Friday nights. The narrative unfolds at just the right pace. I never felt as if it was too long or too short, and I was perfectly satisfied with how the direction chose to explain certain events. At only 7 episodes, you're not really committing too much time, as with most other series these days. The acting was better than most true crime production. Andrew Garfield carries this series throughout, but I'm not saying that to take away anything from any of the supporting cast. They all played very well off of each other and showed the discomfort and creepiness quite well. If you're a fan of true crime and great acting, I would give this one a watch. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more great content.